Everyone has a story to tell. I don't want to hear yours now. Hello, everyone. Thank you for watching the podcast or listening to the podcast. Tell me your story, where you get to come on and tell your story from the beginning to your careers or what you've done up to this point. And tonight's special guest to tell her story is Chanel Nelson, and she's gonna come on and tell her story from the beginning where she started growing up at, and then she'll talk about her career a little bit, and then where she's at now in life. And we're just gonna do like how we always do. We're just gonna jump right into this and just start from the very beginning. Where did you start? Where'd you grow up at?
Yeah, so hello, Chris. Hi, your audience. So I grew up so I was born in Germany because my dad was in the military, but grew up in New York, um, probably for the first 9 years of my life, and then moved down to Georgia, where I went to pretty much elementary all the way through high school. So
So you're pretty much everywhere starting off.
yeah, yeah. So most of my family's still back in New York. Yeah.
Wait, so you said you started overseas. So
I
you
was
were
born, yeah, I was born in Germany, but I think that I think my parents moved before I was even a year old to the States. So was only there for a couple of months.
that's still pretty cool to say though. Like, yeah, I was born in Germany. And now I'm here. I moved to New York. We're at New York.
Westchester County, which is it's pretty close to like all the boroughs. So it's not like a lot of people say, "Oh, you're from upstate New York." It's not really like it's like right outside of the Bronx, and so it's pretty close to get to everything. Westchester County.
So kind of go into detail a little bit and talk about your childhood. How was it growing up? Just sounds like you're kind of moving everywhere. You're kind of on the move, but just kind
Yeah.
of
So I guess being from New York and being where all my family was there. So grew up around family, cousins. My mother had 9 siblings, so we had a lot of cousins. And so I don't know if I knew much outside of that. It was like if we had birthday parties, it was a cousin's birthday party. If we had a sleepover, we were sleeping over at a family member's house. And so we were pretty close-knit family, huge family. Um, and my dad, I mentioned he was in the military. And so he lived in New Jersey. So we didn't grow up living together. I don't know when him and my mom actually divorced, but for as long as I knew, they weren't together. So I would go, between New York and New Jersey. Um, but I don't know, growing up in New York, it's kind of weird, I guess, because I was only there till I was 9. So it's like some of the memories, they're just few and far between. And then, as I grew older and moved to Georgia, I do have memories of going back to New York every summer. And every winter I would go back and stay with my grandparents and stay with my dad for the holidays and for the summer every year, all the way up until I graduated high school. So
and then okay, for the younger generation, you can kind of tell them like what it was like. You didn't have a cell phone in front of you. I mean, what year was this?
oh yeah. So okay, so I was born in 1987. So I'm
1987.
of the generation that we did not have technology and then we did. So I don't know, growing up fire hydrants would be popped open and we would we didn't have swimming pools. I think the city had one swimming pool that we would go to, like the whole community. So like everyone in the city would go to this one pool. So we would just go out on the block and pop open the fire hydrant and play in the streets. That's what we did. And so summer camps were probably the other opportunity to get to a pool. So I would go to summer camps up in Scarsdale, New York. Um, and that's where, yeah, learn how to swim at summer camp. So I don't know. I would probably transition into moving to Georgia because that's where I have more memories. Because New York was just, I was so young. I think the fun thing about being in New York and with everyone being close, you can kind of walk everywhere. So, you know, I lived on the other side of the town from my grandmother. I could walk, you know, and you could be like 5 and 6 years old. And as long as you had someone else with a teen kid with you, you could walk across the town without anyone having any issues with it, catch a taxi. So we were very mobile in New York without anyone having any concern about where we were or what we were doing. As long as we were home before the street lights went on, it was okay.
Amen
We,
to that. Yeah. Mama says be home when them street
yeah,
lights come on.
my grandma used to call outside the window, and if we were playing out in the park or wherever we were, we could probably hear her. But she would call us, and it's time to get in the house. Or we were usually at her house most of the time. My mom was working a lot, and so spent a lot of time at grandma's with other cousins. Um, so yeah, we moved. So born in at the end of the '80s there. So I'm kind of a I don't know. I guess I'm a middle. I'm like an older millennial or like a middle-aged millennial. Um, and we moved to Atlanta in '96. So I was in the fourth grade.
Ooh, that
Um,
had to be an adjustment though. New York and then moving to Atlanta.
it was yeah, we cried a lot. My sister and I. So I have a sister that's 4 years older than me. And so we moved with my mother to Georgia in '96. And so yeah, I was in fourth grade, and we just were upset about it, really didn't want to do the move. And I remember my dad was getting married that year that we made the move. And so when we went back to his wedding, so I think his wedding was in January. So let's say we moved the summer before. So that January we go to New Jersey for his wedding, and me and my sister are like crying and like begging, please don't send us back to Georgia. Please, please, please. It was like a whole ordeal. I remember we ended up staying like a day later just because we put up such a big fit to not go back. Which probably ruined my mother. I can't imagine how she might have felt now, but it was all for our good. And I'm happy that she took the, leap of faith to kind of move us somewhere unknown. We stayed with a friend of hers for probably a year or two before she got her kind of footing and, got us a place. So,
Wow.
yeah.
That's incredible though. I mean, just hearing that story, just was it more so because you didn't want to be away from your mom, or you're just so you because your family's there in New York, you didn't want to be separated from that, or
Yeah, I think that's it. And just it's unfamiliar. I had never been to Georgia before, and I remember it took us so long because it's probably a 14-hour drive from New York to Georgia. And I remember my mother getting lost. I remember us singing "Welcome to Tennessee, Welcome to Georgia, Welcome to Tennessee." It was just like she was so lost. So, our 14-hour trip probably took over 20 hours. And I just remember her being tired and frustrated. And it was just like I said, we didn't know anyone in Georgia. We had never been there before. And it was just like this country place she's moving us to. So, but after we got into school and got acclimated and kind of we loved it. Like I can imagine, staying in New York now, having grown up in Georgia. Yeah.
now did you have a little bit of like a New York accent when you first went down there, or
I did. Yeah, I did. Now I don't. I have no accent, really. People don't know where I'm from. But I did. So yeah, a lot of people would get on me about that. Like not make fun of me, but try to get me to say stuff and like kind of how I would say stuff. And then every time I would go back to Georgia, or New York, I was the country girl.
So
They,
you switched up. You had that accent from Georgia
yeah,
now.
yeah, they were like, "You're so country now." I'm like, so.
Now, did you like music taste change at all when you went down there? Did it?
Yep, yep, yeah. So New York, it's New York music. I'm like trying to think of what we were even listening to back then, but um it was mainly, East Coast rappers or whatever, musicians that we were listening to at that time. And then I remember getting to Georgia, and one of my best friends, who's still my best friend today, she was from Tampa, Florida. And so she was into like Uncle Luke and all of these, like, I would say it's like booty shaking music, kind of like very like down south, Freaknik 99. Like it was just different. It was like not something that I
Wait,
was.
wait, wait. What is this booty shaking music you're talking about here? Wait a second.
Yeah. In New York, we just, we kind of did bob it, it was just different. Like we didn't dance the same way. We didn't just listen to the same music. So it was just very different. So I
Oh,
would say she turned me on to this new music, this down south music that, I grew to love. So
so you went from booty shaking to square dancing?
yeah. So yeah, the music, everything definitely changed. And then, going from, I guess, going into my teenage years, you just start dealing with a lot of change, just in general. Yeah.
Come on, tell us a little bit more about that.
Um, so I don't know. I would say growing up, I was the tomboy. I was a fighter. I was always getting in trouble. I was just that kid. And I
You were
don't
the
know.
scrapper.
Hmm?
So being a tomboy, was it harder for you to get like a boyfriend at the time, or?
I think boys still like me for some reason, and I think because you end up always hanging out with the boys, and you have that boy that likes you. But my dad always would say, "You're never gonna have a boyfriend. You're just gonna beat them up," and so yeah, I don't know where that, I guess, negative energy came from as growing up. I can't even, like, I guess, relate to it at this point in life, but that was what people would say about me when I was growing up. So, and I think a lot of it too came from my dad, because he had like a reputation um in New York of just being a fighter. So I think I probably picked up some of that and just kind of carried it on, not even realizing it. So
Yeah, I could already see it now. Like somebody would like somebody older would be like, "Hey, that's so and so's daughter. Be careful. She's gonna be a
yeah.
scrapper too, because he's a scrapper. Watch out for her."
Yep. And I'm you can't tell on the screen, but I'm 4'11", so I'm short. And so, I think that people try to pick on you usually when you're smaller, and then you gotta
Oh, you're
show that you're
showing
big and tough. So I think it was kind of a few of those different dynamics going on.
Shoot, I was what 4'6" my freshman year going into high school,
Oh yeah.
playing football. Them guys were coming at me trying to. I was like, "All right, let's go. I'm ready. I'll take you on."
Yeah.
So so once you got into high school, how was that?
So high school.
Yeah.
Do do do. Um, I don't know. How was high school? High school, what was that, 90 or 2000 and 2000. So I got into high school in 2000. I went to, so the school in my district, sorry, I'm just like, what was high school? I was in ninth grade. My sister was in her senior year. I should say that when me and my sister, my mom worked a lot, so my sister was kind of like the mom. She was the one that would make me do stuff at home, like,
Mhm.
or get on me if I tried to like go hang out with friends too late, and stuff like that. She was the mom, and she would, even though she was only 4 years older than me. She hated for me to hang out with her and her friends because I was a little sister. So then going into high school, when we already didn't have a relationship, that was, she probably didn't like that at all. So I'm like that ninth grader, getting into trouble and coming into school, and we think we know everything because we're in ninth grade and we're in high school, and she's a senior. So it didn't go very well, being in school. I just didn't do well my ninth grade year at all. Um, I don't know how else to say it, but what ended up happening is, where we lived, well, actually, I was going to the high school in my district. And because I did so poorly in that first year, I remember telling my mother, like, please, if you let me go. They were building a whole new high school, in our area, but not in my district, like not within where I could go to school. And I said, if you let me go to this school, I promise I will do better. I just need like a fresh start. I just remember telling her, like, please just give me this opportunity to just have a fresh start. I just need to be around different people. And she did. She allowed me. We actually used my church address. We
Hmm.
had to use my church address for me to go to a school in a different district, and I turned things around. So some of my friends followed because, again, it was within our area, but they just split the school district based on where you live. So some of my friends went there, and then some of my friends stayed at the old school. So I knew quite a bit of people, and I was like one of those people that well, everybody knew who I was, but I kind of didn't want to be known.
Yeah.
It's like this weird dynamic. So I would like want to walk around with like a hood on, but everyone's talking to you because you know everyone. And so it was, probably by the time I got to my junior year is when I just started like taking it serious. Like, okay, I'm about to be a senior. I think I ran for like student council, and like, just really starting to get involved and that kind of just changed the outlook, because I had teachers that just wouldn't invest in me because they knew me from middle school, or they just was like, she's not going to be serious, she's going to be a class clown, or she's not going to. So they didn't really, I had like just a reputation that followed me, so I really had to just step up and really just show like, hey, I'm really really willing to do things differently, and take this school stuff seriously.
So right then, at that turning point, was that when you realized what you wanted to do with your career, or
No, I don't think I knew what I wanted to do with my career. I kind of always liked medical, right? So at that stage, I was still like, oh, I'll probably go to school to be a nurse or something. So that was kind of always there, but it wasn't like a well thought out plan. Like, I'm gonna finish school, I'm gonna go to college, and it wasn't that. It was me just going through life and trying to figure it out. So I think by the time I got to 12th grade, I signed up with the Navy, and I was supposed to go into the Navy. So like probably the beginning of my senior year, I signed on. And so you kind of go through some programming throughout until it's time for your ship date. And I followed along with that all the way through. And they had me as a hospital corpsman. My senior year, I was taking classes at like a technical high school, in nursing. So I was doing like a certified nursing program. So everything was kind of like at that point starting to make sense. Like, okay, I'm taking the steps towards this medical, path. I have this job, maybe with the Navy. Once I finish school, that's the way that I'm going to be able to pay for college. Like, in my mind, like that's what made sense. And then, I did have some things happen like once I graduated high school, boyfriend stuff.
what?
But I think it got to my dep date, my date that I was supposed to depart out to, the Navy, and you go in and I forget what they call it. I forget what they call it, but you go through the whole processing. And I had a bad attitude. I don't know if you caught that yet. I had a really bad attitude.
Whatever. You look like a peaceful person.
I am now. I am now. Growth, right? But I remember they changed my job, and that just
Oh, up
like
over the
that
top,
was
huh?
there, and it was so weird because I'm like, all this time, like hospital corpsman, hospital, like that was it, and that, like, I went into the, you know, they're expecting to be this hospital corpsman, and they get there that day, and they're like, you're not a corpsman anymore. You're gonna be some like engineer. And like at that time, I didn't know like what an engineer was. And like
What?
all I could think of was like, you're gonna put me on this big boat, like to deal with this engine that's like bigger than me. Just stupid, you know. So I was like, I raised a fit, was like, if I can't be a corpsman, I'm not doing this. Like I'm leaving. This is over.
Nope,
Keep
I ain't doing it.
keep your crap, and yeah, screw all of this. I didn't want to do it in the beginning, in the first place. It was just horrible. And I think I cried for like 2 weeks and didn't do nothing because like all of my friends are going to college, or they're working or doing something, and here I am, summer's ending, and I don't know what I'm about to do with my life. I thought I was going to the military. And I ran track in high school, like junior year, senior year. I ran track, and I was really good. Like I could have ran in college, but the issue with why I couldn't run in college is because that ninth grade year, um, I had got into it really bad with my math teacher.
Oh no.
Yeah, and I think I like probably made it most of the way through like the first semester of math and just never went back. And no one ever, it's like shame on all the adults involved. No one ever made me like go back and take a math class. I don't know. I don't even know what I did during that time that I wasn't doing math. I don't know. I can't tell you. But when I got to senior year, um, and it was time to graduate, they said, you can't graduate if you only have 3 years of math. So what you could do is take the summer and do a math program. And I was like, I'm not doing this. I'm going to the military. I don't even care. Like it doesn't matter. So I kind of blew off a lot of like potential scholarship opportunities because I wasn't eligible. And so schools that were looking at me, they were telling me to go to like a community college, get credits, and I was just like, I'm not doing that.
You're like, no, no. And then I was thinking too at the same time, you were like pretty much sold on the idea of going to the Navy.
Yeah.
That was
I
your
was,
go-to. And then once they switched it up on you, were like, nope, I ain't doing that no more. And then
yeah,
like after you said you cried for 2 weeks, and then that's when reality hit. You're like, oh man, I don't have no backup plan. So what am I gonna do?
I do something. Yeah, it was dark times there. But so I don't know. I think I just jumped online, started applying for schools, but at that point I hadn't taken like SATs or like all the college prep courses or tests that you're supposed to take. So I didn't do any of that. Started applying for colleges. I think I got into two colleges, and one was in Pennsylvania, and I chose that college mainly because it was close to my dad. So it's like Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, probably 2 hours from New Jersey. And I was like, this will be cool. They accept me. They'll give me scholarships because I'm an out of state student, and I'll be close to my dad. So that's how I got there.
Hey, at least you took a different route from me. When I first got out of high school, I had no idea what I wanted to do. So what I ended up doing is I started traveling. I started getting on the Amtrak train and just going places. Just trying to figure out what I wanted to do with life. And, before you know it, after doing it for like 2 years, I think, yeah, 2 or 3 years of just getting on the midnight train and just going to random cities and going to random places, I was like, I think I know what I want to do now.
Yeah. What was that?
And then, well, I went to the University of Toledo and
Okay.
I started studying international business. So that's what I first went after. But once I got there, I was like, what a weird major to go after. So I was like, okay, I'm just gonna start doing like business and like communication, just building up a resume. That way I can, pretty much work wherever I want to, do what I want to, learn more about social media platforms and do, just master it all. Because I was thinking more into the future.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where I'm at now. And also, I had started becoming a personal trainer,
Mm-hmm.
helping people out, get fit. That's fun to do.
Yeah.
People always want to get, start working out, getting those muscles and stuff. And I'm like, it's pretty easy. You just gotta have like motivation and you gotta discipline yourself and make yourself all about it.
So that's
Because,
the hard part.
yeah,
It's easy because it's simple, but it's also the hard part.
and like what I always tell everybody that I work with, the first thing you need to do is everybody says, I want to lose weight. I'm like, okay, the first thing I want you to start doing before we start doing anything, I want you to walk an hour a day for 1 month and then come back to me and tell me if you can do that, then we'll start doing other stuff and start seeing, what I can do with you. But
Mm-hmm.
that's my first challenge. Do an hour a day, just walk it.
Yeah.
And what happens is they quickly find out once they complete that challenge that like, hey, I just lost 20 pounds from walking.
Yeah.
And then it motivates them to like, okay, what else do you got for me? I'm like, okay,
Yeah.
let's do this now.
It's the incrementals. When you start seeing the changes, it kind of gives you, again, the motivation, encouragement to move forward. So, mm.
So back to your story instead of mine.
Yeah, I'm like trying not to because I'll start interviewing you. So I've been very hesitant here not to ask you questions to get us too deep, yeah, off track.
So how long was it before you decided where you wanted to go and what you wanted to do? And
So once I got into college, that college that I went to, I mean, it couldn't be more divine that I ended up there. It was like such a small school, like Amish, Pennsylvania. Like I didn't even know like that was like there were still Amish people like that existed on it. Like I was just so like ignorant, I would say, at that age. I just there was so much I didn't know. But landed at this school that couldn't have been more perfect. The only probably out of towner to say like Georgia. Like most of the students there were from either Pennsylvania, Maryland, New York, and New Jersey. So like all kind of like that pocket. So they were looking at me like I'm this foreigner. But I kind of like I qualified for all of these scholarships to be there, and that kind of helped out, with funding being there. And so the first class I took, so I did business. So my degree was business administration. And I had a healthcare administration minor. So still trying to follow that healthcare path. And are we going to have to cut off?
oh, if it does go off, just click start and we'll just
Okay,
continue. I didn't want to pay for the plan.
no worries. So da, da, da. So I took a class. It was like an HR 101 class as part of the business program. And after I took that class, it was just like, this is it. Like, this is what I want to do. I don't know. I feel like I've always wanted to like help people in some kind of way. And maybe that's what led me to medical. But then getting into business and taking HR courses, I really saw myself in that career field. So I ended up adding like an HR certificate to my program. And I mean, I did really well in college. Like, I think high school just wasn't for me, like school in general, but like college is just such at a different level. You have like, you're on your own, so you can kind of make your decisions. And I think I just felt more responsible.
I
where
think,
it's weird. Some people go the other way.
yeah, that's what I think. I think like once you get into college, it's just you have more of that freedom. You're learning more of what you want to do with your life, and it's not constantly like, what are you gonna do with your life? It's now you know what you're chasing after. You kind of have a feel for it, and I think
Yeah.
that's what you finally caught on to. Like, okay, I know what I want to do now.
Yeah, or just I know that I want to be better. Like I know I want to be this better person. I know I want to be successful. I want to, have a good life. So it was just like getting like laser focused at that point. And I hung out, I had fun, in college, but I was super focused. Like I think I had one of the top GPAs. I've been out of school for so long, so I forget what they call it, like magna cum laude, whatever. That's what I graduated with. And so really, I did really well in college. I was in leadership programs and everything. It was like, who is this person? Um, and so I left college with my HR certificate and bachelor's. And while I was in school, one of our students, or like a peer, they did a presentation on like Disney's college program. And so I remember I was still a junior when they presented, and I applied as a junior and didn't get it. So I reapplied as a senior and got into the program. And so graduated from that school and went down to Florida for the college program with Disney. And again, just it was like next level. I could just see myself and my career like just blossoming in front of me. And at that point, it's like once you work at like Disney, you just feel like you can go anywhere. And so I would
Same time
say that
period.
was like 2008. So recession, horrible year. And so everything started like shutting down, like a lot, like Disney wasn't really laying off people, but they were kind of displacing people. So there was a lot of people within the HR because I was there in the college program. So I did like some character performing and I worked like in some attractions, but I also did like a professional internship in their HR department.
Hold
So
on, wait a minute. So who were you as a character?
So I was friends, we call them friends, like friends with like Mickey, Minnie, all the short people, of course. Mickey, Minnie, Donald, Daisy, Lilo, Stitch, those are my favorites. Mushu from Mulan. I love Mushu. So yeah, like all the little people.
Did you okay, did you have to practice doing any of the voices for them?
No, we don't talk at all. So
Oh,
no, it's just the signatures, you have to get really good at signing. Um, but speaking of like the short characters, surprisingly, the only um dwarf that I was short enough, or I should say tall enough to do was Dopey. So all the other dwarfs were too tall for me to be. So I could only be Dopey.
see,
Uh,
my cousin Megan, she was down there and she played Mickey Mouse.
oh, did she?
Yeah, she
Yeah.
was Mickey.
Fun. Yeah. So she probably did a lot of, or she could have qualified to do some of the other characters too, because it's all based on like height and stuff. So that was a good, definitely a good time.
I bet it sounds like it.
Yeah. So
Growing up with watching Disney and just seeing and then be able to live with the characters and play as them.
mhm, yeah. So yeah, doing the character performing and working in their casting center. That's kind of what solidified too that I just still wanted to work in HR and I really liked it. So as they were laying people off, I was trying to find my place, like where could I stay with Disney? And so I was able to keep my employment as a character performer, but at what I don't know if they were paying like $7 or so an hour at that time. I wasn't able to afford being able to afford to live there as a character performer. Um, with college and all that. I had started my master's program while I was there too. Um, so that I don't have to start paying back student loans. It was
So,
like you get that notice, like it's time to start paying student loans. I'm like, let me go back to school.
so was this like your first real taste of being in the HR department?
Yeah, yeah, at Disney. So it was, yeah, it was great. It was like, this is what I want to do. I worked in casting, so we saw everyone that came in to apply for jobs with Disney, mainly like frontline roles. So a lot of the roles out in the parks, characters. So I did like some of the auditions, which was fun,
Okay.
going through the audition myself and then being on the other side of it now, judging people as I shouldn't say judging, we weren't called judges, the casting directors.
So I was kind of like being like, yeah, you were like a director for like a movie. You kind of felt like that.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
this is what I want.
It was pretty fun. Those were fun times. So I stayed with I kept my employment as a character performer, but I moved back to Georgia to kind of move back home with my mom so I, could afford to live somewhere and because I couldn't afford to live somewhere in Florida and I think I started working at that point. Um, at an insurance. I could just keep talking. So I don't know if you want to probe me or if I should
No,
stop or what.
you go ahead. You go ahead.
Prompt me if you want to prompt me. Um, so when I moved back home, so I guess that was 2009. Is it 2009? Yes, 2009. And I'm leaving like horror dating stories out of this, just so you know. But there's this whole dynamic there.
Oh, you don't want to share none of those horror stories?
I it was only one, but it's just like I'll get to a point where I'll say, and then this happened, and you'll be like, wait, where did this person come from?
Huh?
Um, but so I moved back to Georgia, and I was working at State Farm. My sister knew of a State Farm owner, and he interviewed me, and I was at their front desk, and I got licensed as that, but I still knew I wanted to work in HR. So I was still trying to get a job in HR. It was just, difficult at that time.
Well, I'm just thinking to myself, that's kind of like a jump though, from going from like Disney, working with Disney characters, and all of a sudden you're sitting at a front desk at State Farm. Like, wow, that had to feel totally different, man.
Yep. Yep. It did. It did. And
Did
so
you
then, go ahead.
did you kind of feel like let down a little bit, or were you kind of like, okay, I'm going to do this for like a little bit and then get back to where I need to be?
Yeah, it felt like a transition point. I think the hardest point, and this is where I was like, this kind of moment. So I was engaged, and then the guy I was engaged with called off the wedding, and all
What?
happened at the same time. So
Oh no.
now I'm sitting at this desk that's not like my dream job or anything, and I have
Everybody, welcome back from the commercial break. As we went for break, she was currently talking about the relationship where she went from working from Disney to State Farm and then having her boyfriend, who she was engaged to, suddenly she was no longer engaged and she was sitting at a desk wondering what's going to happen next in life. I'll let her continue now.
yeah. So I mean that was hard. So we had started dating in college. So I didn't, like I left a lot out. So we dated mostly through college. And
Hold
so
on, hold
we
on, rewind. Where'd you guys meet at? How'd you guys meet?
college, we met in college. Yeah, we met in college. I just left him out because, it was such a good time of my, focus in school, and so that was just like a small part, this relationship I had. But yeah, so and I say it just so you know, like we had been together for a couple of years, leading up to that point. He was at Disney with me. So he kind of did the program too. he had a marketing internship, so he was kind of like we were on the same path.
Mhm.
And then we were both in Georgia at this time trying to figure out like the next move and trying to plan this wedding. And I remember it's like the day, we're talking through like your guest list and stuff like that. And he's like, I think that we should just pause on this. I don't think, we should move forward. And at the time I was so devastated. Like I was just so like, oh my gosh, like what what did I do to deserve this life? No, but I'm a spiritual person. I have been praying about it and like really like knowing like I was going into this next step and I was just like, God, if this isn't because I knew like there was so many red flags, like
See,
the
that's what
entire
that's what I was gonna say. I was like just thinking in that moment that that was God's way of probably saying, "This is the biggest blessing you're about to receive."
yes.
It was
He,
like, because a lot of people would, right away, why is this happening to me? Why now? But in that moment, that's when you gotta say, God's working, man. God's doing this for a reason.
yeah,
He's gonna wreck your plans before they wreck you.
yeah. He was answering my prayers. Like I had to reckon with that. Like I had to accept that and just be okay. So like I said, devastated in the moment, feeling embarrassed, like ashamed, like all these emotions. But deep down, I was like, this is kind of like you were asking for this, like just clarity and he had no reasoning, right? Like and I mean a lot of things had came out after that happened, like him dating a girl that was in Georgia, like all this stuff. And so I just knew that it was just divine, like that it happened the way it needed to happen. And
Blessing
so
in disguise.
hmm,
I said a blessing in disguise. It doesn't make sense at first,
a blessing. Yeah, it
but
was
soon afterwards, you're like, okay, I see why now you did that.
I was so at peace, like after like I remember we had went and talked to like my pastor about it, and he was like trying to like sort through stuff, and I was just kind of like I'm okay with this. Like, I really am okay with this. Like, this feels like, sometimes decisions just have to be made for you because you're just not in a position to make them yourself. Like, it's like, but you should probably make this decision. And so, I'm thankful that he was strong enough, I guess, to step up and be like, we're not doing that. So he left. He, left Georgia at the time, and the girl he was dating from Georgia moved with him to New Jersey, and from there, my career. So I applied with the Atlanta Spirit, which Atlanta Spirit owns Atlanta Hawks. Atlanta Thrashers used to be the hockey team and the arena. So Atlanta, oh my gosh, why am I? Oh my gosh. Um,
Hey,
um,
don't beat up on the camera now. Take it easy.
I'm like, what am I like thinking? So it's the Atlanta Hawks, Thrashers, and the arena. I don't know what the arena is called. I don't know why I'm blanking right now. But the where all the teams play at in Atlanta. And
The Georgia Dome?
no, that's a football. This was
See, I don't know nothing about Atlanta. That's about it.
so anyway, it's the CNN Center. So I got that internship and that was in HR. And again, just back on this progression. It was unpaid, so I still had to keep my State Farm job. But because it was in my career, I was like, let me just do this and no regrets of doing it. Um, I was still in grad school. So I was pretty busy because I was like grad school, working at State Farm, working this internship, still had my job at Disney. So I would go down, certain periods, for like a weekend or so and work just to keep my employment. So that was a busy year, 2009. Um,
Sure sounds like it.
yeah.
Everything that was taking place. I mean, that whole, relationship thing. He's glad that you were calmed down at the time. You didn't deck him. Unless you
But
kept that out of the story.
He was such dead weight. So like this is how like things just work too. Because so that probably ended like March or April. And so I started working with Atlanta Spirit, I think August. So it was like that fall or so. Meet this guy there in like December that was just like, talking to me and things like that. And then we started hanging out. And so I started dating that guy probably that next March 2010. Um,
Whoa.
and then I leave for Ohio that April, right? So probably February. It was pretty early in the year. This guy's now my husband. We've been married for
Hey.
We've been married for 7 years now. But like when you look back, I'm like, if I was dating or even engaged or like any like in that relationship that I had knew was over before, for years, would I have met him? Would I have been open to receive this relationship with this person? And it was such a friendship because I wasn't looking like I was just in this mindset like I don't need a boyfriend. I just got out of the situation. Like I'm just focused on my career. And so because it was that, I think it just started out as this friendship and this, it just started off different. Like, let me get to know you. Oh, you're focused too? Oh, great. Like neither one of us want a relationship. So, and then it's like, I'm leaving. I'm going to Ohio. I didn't think twice. Like, even though we were like technically boyfriend and girlfriend at that point, I was like, I'm not sticking around for no guy. Like, I'm leaving. I'm out of here. So it was beautiful, like the way it all worked out. But that was an interesting year for sure.
Isn't it like when you look back on it though, you're laughing about it, but like just how it all worked out in the end. Isn't that
Yeah.
incredible? Just how God works that way. We
Yeah.
thought like, okay, this person left, man, everything didn't work out as planned. And then in that time period when you think back to it, you're like, dude, I was so wrecked. I didn't know what I was gonna do. But then all these things worked out for you, and then like you said, you end up meeting your future husband
Hmm.
and think
Yep.
of like if that had just imagine like had it not, had that fallen through, where would you be at in this moment? Had he not called you to engage, the whole thing off, where
Yeah.
would you be? That's the crazy part of it all.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm thankful. I was totally settling, into that, so yeah, I'm just, it always like gives me like this image, like there's like this picture out there and it's like God has like he's like kneeling down to this little girl who has like this teddy bear, like a small little teddy bear. And he's like asking her for the teddy bear, and she's like, don't not wanting to give him the teddy bear, but behind his back, he has like this huge teddy bear.
Hmm.
Like I always think about that image, and it's like you're so afraid to give up this like little thing, and he has so much like bigger that he wants to give you. And so I always just think of that. And so my path forward is like if whatever God has for me is for me. And so I'm not holding on to anything that, it just if it doesn't feel right, it's probably not, right. Or if yeah, I
Important message right here that we're preaching about is allow God to lead your steps. Allow him to lead the way.
mm-hmm,
That-
yeah,
That's the better way to put it, is allow God to lead your steps. It might not make sense at first, but he knows what he's doing.
yeah, yeah, I trust them. Yeah. I trust them for sure. So yeah, so things were looking up even from that point forward. So I moved to Ohio with a job with Honda in HR. That was like my first official like paid job in my field, and loved it. Like I feel like every role I've had, I've enjoyed. Um, like no complaints. And so I was with Honda for 6 years before moving on to another company. Um, that I just left in April. So I did 6 years at Honda. I did 6 years with this company. They did like furniture design. So more creative space, which was fun. And now I'm in HR technology. So I've been in HR for 12 years now and I love it. And so
How does it feel though? You just going, wow, I'm just thinking like just your story, just hearing it overall, just like wow, how far you have come. You know, from being undecided coming out of high school, you're going into the Navy, and then not going into the Navy, and then going into for business, and then switching up to HR, going to Disney, and just your life, man, is a blessing.
yeah, no, it is. It is. And you talk about travel, there's so much growth in traveling and expanding, like, just how you see things, right? We have these kind of narrow perspectives when we grow up in a certain area and we're in a certain, community, and that's all we know. So I think that's awesome that you got to travel. I studied abroad twice when I was in college, during my undergrad, and so that kind of gave me a bug to say I want to travel all over the place. I have two kids. I didn't say that yet. We have a 3-year-old and a 4-year-old, and I just want to show them the world. And yeah.
Hey, you got the right mind, you got the right guy. It's all gonna happen, you know. But most importantly, like I said, allow God to continue to lead you every step of the way.
Yeah.
And as He's done in the past, He'll do again.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like I'm about to have like a preaching moment. Start
Whatever
preaching
you
on here.
gotta do, Chris.
Start preaching.
I'm like biting my tongue over here. HR person. We just have questions, so
But I was like,
that's
you
not.
can tell that you're ready to throw some questions at me. Like,
I'm not
go
gonna do
ahead.
it. This
Let's
is
see what
your
you got.
show. This is your show. So yeah. So what other questions do you have?
So, so we covered your career. Where are you at now? Are you, is this where you're gonna stay at? Or do you have like any like, do you plan on writing a book in the future? Do you plan on being in a movie? What's the next step?
Definitely not in a movie. I'm super behind the scenes. I like hate like too much. I don't I'm not a in front of camera person. I love being behind the scenes. I could definitely see myself writing a book. Um it's interesting. There's so many like nuances. Like there's a lot of things that I could talk about in my upbringing that would probably take us so deep and off track that I didn't want to like even bring it up. But I feel like there's a lot of things that I could talk to, like, or just say how this experience shaped the next one. Right. Because when I think about certain things, and people go through really traumatizing stuff, and I'm not going to act like I had like this traumatizing childhood or anything like that. But I just went through certain things that, you know, I, I didn't understand what I was going through in the moment, but looking back now, I understand why I had to go through every single step and deal with different people along the way, because it all just shaped where I am today and how I see things. And um so yeah, I could see writing a book one day. What that would be, I don't know.
I
I
definitely could see you writing a book.
would probably want to interview people.
Yeah, do what I'm doing.
No, I could, I could see writing a book. In my where I'm at, my company, it's all remote, so I kind of have flexibility. My goal at this stage was to be present for my children, and so I kind of wanted that. So I don't consider it taking a step back in my career. I kind of like feel like I took a side step. Like the next step would have been like leadership. And um, you always kind of feel like a leader in HR anyway, because you're making these decisions and stuff. But I didn't want to be in a role where I had to be like front and center, you know, having to be on the calls all day with people. I just want to be present for my kids right now, and but still kind of fulfill some of those things, professionally that I need. So I feel like what I'm doing now is like definitely meeting that. And so um, I have I'm trying right now to get my husband to commit to like maybe either moving abroad or like going to travel abroad with the kids. Again, just exposing them to just different things, different people, um, just so they can have their own thoughts on just life and what their purpose is, and I feel like so much we're told this is how we should think, this is how we should feel about ourselves, or this is how you should feel about this other person, and all those things.
I know,
So
I totally understand. I respect exactly what you're saying. I think that is really a really amazing move to do, is to get out there and allow your kids to experience just, different cultures and different places of the world, because that really helped me out in the long run. When I was traveling, getting out of Ohio and going to like 32 different states. Yes, 32 so far. And just being able to see people from all different backgrounds and learn about them, and it just helped me become more of a just more open to just the world itself. And I think that allowing your kids to do that, yeah, definitely. I would definitely do that. Because then it would help them in the long run, especially as they got older, because then they know how to handle certain situations, how to talk to certain people. And
mhm, yeah, so yeah, that's kind of what I'm focused on now, and learning about, like, they're in a Montessori school, which a lot of people don't, some people don't like Montessori because they feel like it's like unhinged, like kids just do whatever they want without a structure. There's no structure, and there's really a lot of structure in it, but it's more around like focusing on this individual strengths. And so I feel like, man, where would I be, or where would a lot of people be if the schools focus more on that individual? Like if they focus on like what is Chris good at, but how do we like focus on that and develop that? I think our school systems, they start like outward, like what jobs are out there and how do we like make that fit into these kids, like
see,
let's
maybe that's your next move. Maybe that's what you need to do, is help out in the educational field to get, the focus on that. I know it's already in the works, and everybody's been trying to do that. And I think that needs to be focused on more than anything, is to be able to get teachers to get in on these kids and try to help the whole classroom instead of just focusing on the ones that are, raising their hands all the time. Try to get those kids that are not involved. Because in the
yeah.
long run, that's what we need more than ever. Because there's so many people in the world that are lost, and they just don't know what to do because they never got that push. Nobody ever wanted to be their mentor, to help them
Yeah,
out and guide them to where they need to be in life.
I feel like everybody has a purpose. And so it's like, it's so powerful. We're able to just like tap in to what each and everybody's purpose is. And like, it gets stressful sometimes because I know I can't change the world, but it's like, man, like sometimes it's so simple. It seems so simple. Like if we could just change these certain things, and our educational system is one of them. Just,
And it's funny, like, when we're talking about this, because I was actually talking about this earlier to a friend. I was like, because I just see it in so many people. Everybody's going through the same thing, but I'm always looking at, like, if people only knew that we were not created to be ordinary, but we had this greatness inside of us, that all of us are capable of doing incredible things. But if, instead of being, because it's just how we're brought up, man, and people, before you know, your identity is being figured out as a child. You're being told this, you're told that, and before you know it, people allow that identity, that, those words as a child to affect their entire life.
mhm.
And if we would understand that we have this greatness inside of us, all of us do it, including you that are watching right now, that are saying you don't. We all do have greatness inside of us, and we're all capable of doing incredible things. This body that we've been blessed with, man, don't even get me started. It is capable of doing so many things. So many things. The mind itself, man, if you can learn how to control it, it's only the beginning.
Yeah.
All right. I would just want to say thank you for coming on and telling your story, giving us a little taste of Chanel Nelson, getting to see like a little bit of it. I'm pretty sure when that book comes out, we'll learn a lot more about you too.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate you. I love what you're doing. So keep at it. I'm sure you'll keep going far with it. So
Okay, thanks so much. Okay, for I'll wrap it up. So the last three questions to give you that people would probably ask. Okay, and this one's gonna probably be a little touchy, a little personal. The first one, with your mom and dad being, split up and everything, did it really affect you and your relationships at all?
uh people relationships or like relationships that I was in,
Did,
like,
yeah, I would say both actually. Yeah.
I don't know. I was so young when it happened. Like I don't remember them ever being together. Um, I think there were definitely times where, um, I mean, I definitely probably have daddy issues. I remember going to counseling for marriage, and it's like you start talking about parents, and it's just like, where are these tears coming from? Like, I didn't even know this. Um, my dad, like, I've never lived with my dad, but I've always felt like he was a phone call away. I feel like the most disappointing times where, like, like I said, he was married from when I was 9 on. My mother got remarried later on in life. But the most disappointing time was, I know my dad was like going through a separation, and he's like, here, you can come move with me. And I remember packing up all my things and moving up there to New Jersey, the summer, my normal summer routine. But this time I got all my stuff with me. And he's like, oh, no, we're going to work it out, and I'm just like crushed. Like, you said it was going to be us, and you were getting an apartment, and it was going to be, and that was probably the first of many times that he disappointed me. And so I'm sure that shows up, a lot. And I try to, in my relationship with my husband, I try to, we talk through a lot of things. And when there are any things that come up that I feel like are not my husband, but I'm projecting something, I have to like question like where that's coming from.
Hmm.
And while I don't hold grudges, I try to like just there's awareness to this, and so that I'm not taking things out on my husband, you know.
Well said. Well said. All right. See what I can come up with. Question number two. When did your relationship with God come in? When did your testimony? When did it finally happen?
Yeah. Um, so I religious family, right? So I was always kind of in church, but it's funny enough, like my mother's husband now, I remember my mom when she moved us to Georgia and trying to have us in church, and it's like we wanted to do everything but go to church. She had us to a point where we were supposed to get baptized. And so it's me and my sister. I probably was like 14 at this point, and we're getting baptized. And I'm like, you know what? I'm not doing it. Remember, I had a bad attitude. I was like, I'm not doing it. And they were not even dating then. I don't even know if my mother knew this man, but he got up in the front of the church, and I don't know what he said that day, but it changed my heart. Like, and I had already been going through, you got to go through classes to get baptized. I had already been going through those classes, but I don't know what it was that day that I said, I'm not doing this. But whatever he got up there and said, it just changed my heart. And so I went and I got baptized. And at that point forward, it was my relationship with God. It wasn't about, you
Wow.
know, you know, yeah. So it just changed. And God has to do that too. Like he has to really show up for you. It can't be about, what you've like everything has to apply. for me anyway, to start like making me feel that connection with God. It's like things start to apply, and then you grow faith, and then and so I have crazy faith, um, and trust in God. And so yeah, I would say that was the moment. And then from that point on, everything that I did, everything that I've like my relationship with God from that point grew based on what I like how I poured into it, not, because I had to be there, because I had to go to Bibles. I wanted to go. I was yearning to learn more, to have a relationship with God. I remember, and my husband has a really good relationship with God too. And it was interesting because when we were dating, he was in school in Georgia. He was there for the internship, but he's from South Carolina. And so I was going to church because that was my area, my hometown. And he wasn't. And there would be moments that he would say things to me. And I just remember saying, like, you don't even go to church. Like, how is like, your faith is so strong. Like, when was the last time you were in a church? Because for me, it was that closeness of being there kind of helped me throughout my journey. Even though I had a relationship with God, being in church, being in that like, and so I think even my relationship with my husband taught me how to have like not that codependent relationship of like the physical church. So
And that's,
um,
I mean, that like really, that's the best thing to learn too. It's like people are so committed to thinking like they have to go to church, they have to go to church to have that relationship with God. But
mhm.
truthfully, like you said, you learn that it's a lot stronger than that. Once you get
Yeah.
that know, have that one-on-one with God all the time, just you and Him. It's just words can't explain the feeling of being in the presence of God. Just
Hmm.
that peace, that relaxation.
Hmm.
But
Yep.
let's not get too deep.
Well, that's you said, you were like, you seem very peaceful now. I am now. But that's because I know where my help comes from. And it's just, yeah, I don't know. I'm sure people that knew me, I mean, I don't know. I used to have like weird encounters. Like, people would just say, you seem like a believer. And I could just be like on a train, or, people would just have these conversations with me. I remember at Disney, I was having some like issue with maybe I think like someone that lived in the house. I forget what they were called then, but they lived in the house with me, and we are having these like issues. And I was on the phone, and I hung up the phone, and there was a guy, like the vending machine guy, that was like changing out like the Coca-Colas and stuff like that. And he's like, I don't want to like sound like I was listening to your conversation, but I just overheard it, and I just want to pray for you right now. I just want to pray with you. And I could have been like, no, no way. Like, we're at work, but we pray, and we're like in this break room. And I just remember like this calm, like I didn't feel, embarrassed or anything like that. And everybody could see us, and it didn't matter. Like, I was just, but those, I have those experiences with people that I couldn't, so it's like clearly it was showing up in some kind of way, um, that I didn't know. It wasn't like, hey, I love Jesus.
No, I
People,
mean, there's no shame in that though. And
yeah,
you understand that, like when you was in there, that's why you wasn't embarrassed by it. You're like, dude, I like this feeling.
oh, it's like, I thank you, God, for sending this angel here at this moment when I needed him. And so it was weird. Like, I'd never see him again after that. Like,
Isn't it cra I've had like stuff like that happen where I've like there was one I could get into the story, but there was one time I was in Orlando, Florida, and me and my buddy ended up going into like the wrong neighborhood, and there was people on porches, left and right, just yelling and shouting at us. Like there was like we was like we're like our lives were in trouble. Like,
mm,
but all of a sudden this lady just came out of nowhere. I mean nowhere, and said, "Don't look at them, just follow me." So that's what we did. We just followed this total stranger who had no idea who she was or where she came from, and she led us to the bus stop. And before I could even turn around and say thank you, she was gone.
Ooh,
She like that's what I'm saying. Like I totally understand what you're saying there when like this guy just came out of nowhere and prayed for you, and then this lady just rescued me and my friend. Because who knows what would have happened, you know?
yeah. Wow.
It's chill still thinking about it,
It's, I know I did. I got chills too, and I have on a long sleeve shirt. So I know.
but
Yeah, Chris, we'll have to connect again for
yeah,
sure.
I
Just
know
have
what.
some conversations. Yeah.
All
We
right.
may need to have like an alumni call or something. Your folks on that. Yeah.
All right, so the final question. So if anybody wants to get a hold of you, or get in touch with you, or just, kind of follow what you're doing, how can they do that?
So Instagram, I guess, and my Instagram is the Nelson Design Co. My husband and I do we do invest in real estate and kind of been trying to grow that. So if you go to my Instagram, you can kind of follow me there, follow that journey as it kind of continues to take off. Um, LinkedIn, so my LinkedIn, Chanel M. Nelson. Um, yeah, where else? Where else, Chris? I think those are two good
Boom,
places.
that's it. That's where you find her at.
So yeah, there's a lot of things behind the scene, outside of work. We love real estate. We love financial independence. It's something we've been working towards. We have some goals. So yeah, there's a lot we could talk about.
Right now, she's basically just letting us know it's only just the beginning, folks. It's only
So
just the beginning. But
um,
anyway, I just want to say thank you once again for coming on and telling your story. You're only just the beginning story, might add now.
yeah,
And also for the people that are watching and listening, thank you for if you made it this far through the show. I know it's like what, almost an hour. But thank you for watching, thank you for listening, and also if you'd like to come on sometime, this is a platform for everyone. I've created it for everyone. So if you'd like to, just tell your story or even like how kind of how we did today, share your testimony, feel free to message me. But anywho, this is Chris. That's Chanel. Have a great night.